Deleted session for Mary Smith, May 3, 1972. They said, "Stop shaking." Mary said, "Okay." They said, "Can you hear me?" Mary said, "Yes." They said, "Then listen well. I will start out with a compliment. That is to set you at ease. You are warm-hearted. You try to help other people. You mean well, and you have many abilities. You also have all the energy that you need. When you learn how to release it, now give us a moment and listen. I will not answer your questions in the way that you asked them. First of all, let us deal with some causes. You expected too much when you moved here. You expected many things. A complete renewal, a reversal of certain circumstances in your life, a new relationship with your husband. You over-idealized the situation ahead of time. You thought there was going to be a second honeymoon. You also thought that you would enjoy having your husband around all of the time. Because of previous conflicts that can be resolved, you did not enjoy having him around all of the time as you supported that you did. There were also conflicts of direction as to who would rule the roost, and you resented his taking over, or what it seemed to you to be. You were used to managing the home alone. You thought that you would welcome his cooperation and aid, and because now of other conflicts with him in the East, in this life, instead, you resented his help. You wanted to rule as you had in the past. You wanted the home to yourself. Now, there are two strong aspects in your personality. One having to do with the reason why you entered the service. A desire for order, a desire for excitement, but excitement within an ordered sequence. There is also, in this same respect, an organizational aspect to your personality that is not now being used to advantage, and therefore can have negative consequences. You like to organize things and people. It is in this regard that you found the presence of your husband distracting when the two of you moved. Do you follow me? Mary said, "Yes." I thought that he would be home and he would have more time to farm and we could work something out. But I was really relieved when he had to go to work at night and I could read and study by myself. They said, "Now, you were disappointed then. Shortly after you made your move, and you began to retreat. Whether or not you are consciously aware of this, in your earlier life, when you became extremely nervous or upset, or had a bad problem, you began to shut down stimuli. You did not hear as well. When you wanted to retreat from the world, you shut down on your hearing so that you were not distracted. The habit simply persisted, and you grasped upon it as the situation continued. Now, because of some circumstances and conflicts with your husband in this life in the past, you did not want to hear what he had to say. You were finished listening to him, and therefore with him. Particularly, you began to have trouble hearing. To some extent, this also is connected with your daughter Ruth and the other girl. I want to tell you what I know about your days, and then I will tell you what you must do to change them. You are beginning to organize your life about your lack of hearing. You are beginning to make it a characteristic. You are beginning to force other people to relate to you in that regard. Now, you are obviously doing this because you are getting something out of it. And you must discover what that something is, and I will help you. You need, first of all, to develop some of your abilities in a purposeful manner. You are not using them. You are playing with them, but not using them as you want to. The organizational part of yourself wants you to organize yourself, and so far you have not done this. You made a remark when you came in here this evening about not being dressed at noon. Now, my first piece of homely advice is you should get up at a decent time and immediately dress and dress. I do not mean a robe. This immediately lifts your own self-image and prepares you for the day. It is a mental set. Now, as far as your fears are concerned, in your periods of depression, you feel that you have not used your abilities in a responsible way. You feel that therefore you cannot pat yourself on the back. You feel to some extent like a hypocrite because in, I believe, New Jersey, at least before you moved here, you spoke of your writing, but you did not work with it in an organized fashion. You did not direct it. In periods of depression, you feel that your life, the main points, have passed, and that you have lost time, important time that you feel you cannot recover. All of these fears work together to cause the present difficulty. Now, there is no one who can change your life for you, but you can change it. And in that lies your hope and your salvation. And so you must begin to do so. You are now organizing your life about your hearing defect. In the main, you are forcing others again to relate to you in that regard. You mention it often. You bring it into the conversation. When I tell you now, often, it would not otherwise be noticed, for you also exaggerate the extent of the hearing loss. I did not say there was not a loss. I am saying you are exaggerating the loss that there is. There are several things that I will ask you to do. First, however, you must begin to love sound. You must not concentrate thinking, I cannot hear. What is there to hear? What are they saying? How bad is my hearing today? You must instead sensually enjoy those sounds that come to you, and even imagine sounds when you are alone. Now, this will automatically set your inner self toward the anticipation of further sound. You must take at least an hour a day during which you do not think of loss of hearing, and I will give you some hints as to how to do this. But you must give yourself some relaxation from the constant concentration upon negative aspects. Mary asked, This doesn't mean a sleeping time. They said, it does not. Mary said, then I take it you would not suggest an operation. They said, I have not gotten to that part yet. Mary said, sorry. They said, I will let you take a break, however. Mary said, thank you. They said, I am simply pointing out certain characteristics. You carry grudges, and you have carried several, concerning your husband for some time. In the meantime, he has changed. Mary said, I am realizing that. They said, he is trying to get through to you. Mary said, yes, I know that. They said, since then, however, you began to close down and say, I will listen no longer. You must learn, therefore, to be more forgiving, both to yourself and others. There are also some conflicts of a quite natural type between you and your daughter, Ruth, who also has strong organizational qualities and artistic abilities, as you have. Now, on some occasions, you resent her manner toward you, and you resent it bitterly. At the same time, you allow your own actions to bring out this manner from her. You know when you are doing it that this reaction will result, and you do it. Regardless, in that particular dilemma, your husband is between. The other girl, Rob noted, Mary, age 15. She said, I see figuratively now, figuratively standing by your husband's side, not as much like you as Ruth. Regardless of your form, you, in your own mind, feel scattered, that you are not doing enough in other directions, and you are not sure what those directions are. You feel blacked. You are doing two things with the ears, of course. You are telling yourself that you want to hear. The other part of you is saying, I do not want to hear. I do not want to hear what you have to say. You are, therefore, sending contradictory messages. This accounts for the decrease in hearing. Now, before your husband became more willing to communicate, before he made an effort, you had fallen into your own rut. You did not try to relate to him in any strong manner. You let the relationship stand at a surface level. For a long time, this served you both. Then, however, when you moved, a critical situation was set up, where you were thrown together. This immediately brought forth the conflicts that had been latent and largely left alone. He then tried to relate to you. He did try to make up for lost time, and he began to grow and to understand. To some extent, this frightened you, for you were used to the old relationship. At least you felt safe with it. You had given up expecting from him, and you were afraid of being hurt once more. Mary said, that's true. They said, now, as a result, you began this retreat. The inner problems can be faced and solved. Now, no problem is solved forevermore. Situations are resolved, however, and grow and develop and change if you allow them to. Your ears, your hearing will improve when you realize that the cause is an inner one, and when you bring the problem out into the open, and when you use certain techniques that are simply aids. If you do this, you can improve without an operation. Mary said, "Good." They said, "If you do not do this, you will not improve even if you have the operation." Now, I am not saying that the operation may not temporarily help, but without changing your attitude, it will not help to any degree that will compensate you. But the decision, you see. Mary said, "What?" They said, "But the decision." Mary said, "Yeah." They said, "Must be your own." Mary said, "I will have to decide if I want the operation or not. Is that right?" They said, "You will indeed. I will not tell you." Mary said, "Uh-huh." They said, "I have told you what I think. The hearing, you see, the state of the hearing is among other things a symbolic, physical statement of the lack of communication that has existed between you and your husband. Only now it is you who will not hear. That is not the only cause of the condition. However, the habit was set in the past when you shut out noise that you did not want to hear. You are in the habit of shutting out sound." Mary asked, "Just in this life?" They said, "In this life material, you are in the habit of shutting out sound. Now, you can even catch yourself if you are alert enough doing this by the feeling that you have. In a conversation, now listen to me. In a conversation that you now decide sounds boring when you enter it, you can catch yourself thinking, 'This is boring. I will not bother to listen. It is too much trouble.' Now, you think those thoughts come to you because it is so difficult for you to hear. Instead, those thoughts were yours long before the disability showed itself. You thought that way first, before the condition, and whenever unpleasantness arose, you would make a series of decisions to shut out the sound until these decisions, one upon the other, finally conditioned you. You conditioned yourself not to hear. The problem is that after a while, you see, you conditioned yourself so well that you no longer control the process that you began, and only then do you become frightened. Now, you had a question. Mary asked, "Do you think that the condition has changed for the better in, say, the last couple of weeks? When my husband and I agreed, for instance, on the check writing thing, not to write checks for cash and land, so that we could control the money. I think this will help me too." They said, "The money was also a symbol of communication as far as both of you were concerned. It was not the money, but your ideas about the money, and the clashes that result. The point was," Mary said, "Do you think?" They said, "The communication." Mary said, They said, "Not the money." Mary said, "Uh-huh." "Do you think I have a feeling that things have started to change for the better in the last couple of weeks in that regard communication? They said, every time you make a sincere effort, the two of you to communicate, then the situation will begin to improve. Mary said, that's why I had a feeling. They said, you must be willing, however, to accept whatever comes of the communication. The first time it becomes unpleasant, you cannot, therefore, the next time say, this time I will not hear. Mary said, you have to hear it out. They said, or then you retract. Mary said, you have to hear it out. They said, now, listen, you are not hearing me out. As you behave with me, you behave with your husband and the others. You are not listening to me, so much as thinking of your next question and what you want to say. Mary said, sorry. They said, I mention it only to show you how you operate. It is obvious in this situation. It is a characteristic. You are sometimes so impatient to express your own ideas that you do not listen to others. Also, often you do not care, quite frankly, what they think. Now, this does not necessarily refer to me here. But if you do not care what they think, then again, you will not listen. Observe yourself in conversation. I do not mean to watch yourself so closely that you cannot think, but observe your own reactions and your thoughts. Honestly ask yourself in situations, do I want to hear? And if I do not, why don't I? Now, I will let you take a break. Now, often you use sound as a barrier. Also, you use monologues and set a barrier of sound to protect yourself from other people. And you do not realize that you do this. You erect barriers like walls, so that someone wanting to communicate with you cannot get through, cannot find a hole in your conversation to reach you. And the more nervous you are, the more frantically you erect this barrier of sound. You use sound as a barrier, therefore, and when you become doubly frightened, then you do not hear the sounds that come from without, but retreat from them. The entire gestalt of sound is therefore highly important to you in your mechanism of survival. You have used it to protect yourself, either erecting sound yourself to protect you from communications coming from without, or, when this fails, by refusing to hear. You must therefore ask yourself where this charged attitude towards sound originated, and why you use it in such a way. And I will give you some clues. You mentioned some yourself. To you, noise from your early years was to be avoided. Sound did not convey pleasure. You were not thinking in terms of the communication of pleasure. It became, to you, a method of conveying unpleasant information, and therefore to be shut off whenever possible. You will find that if you begin to cultivate the pleasure of sound, this will help you. Begin to play music that you like. Listen to the rain. Do not just listen, but allow yourself to be open to the different pattering sounds and the sound patterns that the rain makes. Become fascinated with the behaviors of sound. Tell yourself that sound is like light, that it is easily available. Now, some people do not like to look at unpleasant objects or sights, but very few of them would stop using their vision and give up the good sights, so that they would not see bad ones. Yet, this is what you are doing in your present course. Give us a moment. Try. Mary asked, try? Say said yourself to speak gently. Mary said, gently. Say said, learn to speak easily and gently. You communicate easily and well in your writing because sound is not involved. The ability to communicate is yours, and you are highly gifted in that regard. You are simply dropping the communication on the sound level. Once you realize this and understand it, you can begin to relax in that regard. You are denying yourself a certain joy in your own present femininity, and for several reasons. With some purpose, you see to it that you are not as attractive physically as you know you are. You play down your attributes rather than dress them up. You have been worried about and afraid of the feminine aspects of your personality. Now, some of this has to do with the situation that exists between you and your husband, and to some extent, with the situation as it now exists. There is a free and easy flow of communication that is wordless, that you block. Now, to some extent, you punish him for his past attitudes by not appearing as attractively as you could. You think it serves him right. What does he expect? At the same time, you are afraid that if you do appear as attractively as you can, that you will be hurt again by him, and you are unwilling to take the chance. The episode that you mentioned, for example, regarding the candle, in your mind, that is a romantic gesture, and when he makes a comment about fire, there are several unconscious implications that you make, and that in the past have been understood by both of you at an unconscious level. Now, you interpret his remark about the candle to mean that he is rejecting deep romantic feelings of yours and needs, and also that the fire means that these needs are dangerous. His fear of fire being a symbol for danger. You think, unconsciously, he is saying to you, these romantic needs are dangerous. They can cause a fire that we cannot control. Fires being obviously destructive. Now, this is your interpretation at a deep level of such a remark. This confirms your feeling that you dare not display strong emotions with him, and you feel all the more rejected. When you light the candle, you are testing him to see how far he will go with you, and when he makes the fire remark, you take it as a rejection of the entire romantic self and the romantic situation. At the same time, this denial wounds you, because you also suffer from it. He is much more open in that regard now than he was, and he understands his own emotional behavior better as well as yours. Now, you can be a very attractive woman, and you can fix your hair. You can play up your attributes, and you know it. This will automatically, you see, change the situation, for you will not change the physical aspects unless an inner recognition has first led you to do so. You will feel the richer for it, emotionally richer for it, regardless of your husband's reaction. I want you to listen to this session well. I suggest, if you can, that you type it up and also read it, and once a day for some time. Now, I will let you take a break. You overeat to compensate for the other joys that you do not allow yourself. If you began to paint for an hour a day, you would not need to eat so much. When you bring food and drink with you, you do two things. You bring along your own security blanket, for one thing. You also show that you are insecure and frightened outside of the home environment, and must bring nourishment from there along with you. Now, the joy that you experience when you are painting will be yours, and not desert you whether you stay in your house or go to someone else's. You will not have to worry about carting it along with you, as you probably suspect. The overeating is the one great indulgence that you allow yourself, and even then you surround it with all kinds of taboos. It is not the fact that you overeat, and that you are desperately frightened because you overeat, because of your sitter's history. You do not overeat simply any food, but you surround eating itself with taboos, so that it must be pure food, good food, to your way of thinking, and there are foods that you will eat and foods that you will not eat, and you project moral implications upon the foods. Some foods are good to your way of thinking, and some foods are bad to you. This does not necessarily all alone mean they are good for the body or bad for the body, but in themselves you give them moral characteristics as you would people. So that beneath the whole attitude is the idea, this is an evil food, and be shunned as you would shun an evil person within that framework of thought. This is so that you will not enjoy your one indulgence overmuch. Now, so far, you are denying a good portion of your hearing, because sound can be unpleasant, and carrying this a bit further now, it can also be bad. You know the three little monkeys who sit, see no evil, and so forth. Now, you have simply hit upon the hear no evil. You have added to it the fact that you will not indulge yourself in joy, or in joyful pursuits, unless you can rationalize to yourself by saying, I am doing this for someone else, and that is the only reason you let yourself walk with the necklaces that you make. You could say, I am making these for class members, and therefore justify the pleasure. What our friend here told you, Rob, is indeed true. You must realize that you are a unique and a blessed individual, and you must be as kind to yourself and kinder, even than you try to be to others, for they also bathe in the joy that you feel. It is most important that you understand this. Mary said, I am beginning to. She said, the book that you brought, Psycho-Cybernetics, and the other one, both of these are good for you, but do not simply read them. Use them. Each book approaches various problems from different viewpoints, but together they will be of great help. Since you yourself began these reactions and originated them, you yourself can change them, and you can change them as of this moment. Imagine for an experiment, now, a world in which there is no sound. Do not imagine that you are dead. That is not what I am saying. But imagine that the world itself has no sound for anyone to hear. Do you see the difference? You are imagining a situation in which there is no sound to be heard. Whether or not you have ears, there is no sound. Then, imagine that suddenly a raindrop falls and makes a first sound. The first sound that can ever be heard. And imagine the impact and the beauty of that sound. Then slowly imagine other sounds appearing in the world, appearing in the same way that a flower might appear. So that sounds begin to be born in the universe. Imagine, then, the joy of hearing that sound in a world that had now none. Whatever sounds, then, that imaginatively come to you, feel the brilliance and the miracle of them as they are born out of the silence. And then, give thanks for a world of sound. And let yourself revel that you live in this world where sound is a part of your environment and surroundings. In all of this, do not think about your ears, but do the imaginative exercise exactly as I have suggested it. That alone, done once a day, will help arouse again within you the joy and wonder of that particular sense. Now, you can indeed progress, and you have progressed in many ways since you began Rupert's class, and so has your husband. It has taken you some time to develop these habits with such persistence, and so you can change them, using that same persistence and determination. Now, you used the energy that your classmate was sending you for other overall purposes. While you did not want to hear, her energy could not force you to hear. Indeed, you would automatically put up a defense, because you considered not hearing to be important to your survival. The exercise that I just suggested to you will, if followed, now, help you open up sufficiently so that energy sent to you can be utilized for that specific difficulty. But while you refused to hear, you would consider energy sent to you particularly to make you hear also a threat to your survival, and would be determined to block it. You must realize that your survival depends upon enjoying all of your senses fully. Reading the session alone should help you realize that. Mary said, "May I ask a question?" They said, "You may indeed." Mary said, "How long a day each day should I practice what you just suggested?" They said, "As long as it is enjoyable, that is, no more than a half hour at the most." Mary said, "And an hour of painting every day?" They said, "You should indeed." Mary said, "That will be a pleasure." They said, "And enjoy it, and the exercise, do not strain at it." Now, you use your imagination well, so imagine these new sounds as they will appear until you are really dazzled. Mary asked, "Should I do anything specific too, like go to the old lady's home and play the piano for them? They said, if you do that, it is fine, but it is not as important as the painting. Doing things for other people is important, but doing things, as our friend Rob said, for yourself is imperative. Mary said, uh-huh. They said, if you are joyful, you will help other people simply by being what you are. If you try to help others and you are despondent, you do not help them. Mary said, I am beginning to understand what you mean. They said, all the suggestions that I gave you, however, follow, including dressing in the morning. Mary added, what in the morning? Seth and Rob said, dressing in the morning. Mary said, all right, I'll do that. They said, and getting out of the house. Mary said, yes, I should get out of the house more. They said, take your pens outside sometime. Think how precious voices are. In your turns, they speak, and the sounds are gone and never recaptured. And who are you to say, I will not listen, for this is trivial. These sounds are magic. Be thankful for them. You will never again be the personality that you are at this moment. Whatever self you will be, in your turns, or you were, each of those selves are unique, as you are unique. When you hear him, Rob, speak, his words are the magical signatures of the psyche, materialized in certain ways within this moment as you understand a time, and precious and a joy to hear. And so are the words of every man and woman, and the sound of every bird and every raindrop, precious beyond recall. So do not close yourself to those sounds, and be thankful for them. You have been afraid of displaying emotions. You think that tears are cowardly. You have not wanted to face your own emotions. Therefore, you are frightened of the emotions of others. You did not habitually display your emotions to your husband. Now, he could more easily express some of his to you. He got out of the habit, however. You did not want to hear them. You considered tears degrading. You considered in the past joy evil. This did not leave you too many acceptable emotions. Mary said, that's right. They said, now, there is nothing degrading in tears. Think of them again, now, as being as nature as rain that falls out of the sky when the clouds are full. The rain refreshes the ground and tears can refresh the soul. When depressions are freed to follow their natural course, then, indeed, they flow away in tears and the soul is refreshed. It does not hold onto its grudges. When you hold a grudge, you are like some angry, little black cloud that says, I will hold on to this moisture, and I will never let it go. But clouds have better sense, and so easily they empty their contents and the rain refreshes the land. So can tears refresh the land of your psyche, and used in such a manner, depressions fall away naturally and allow, if you will forgive me for a trite phrase, the sun of joy to shine. Otherwise, the cloud becomes blacker and blacker and blacker until the sun cannot be seen, and until the sun, when glimpsed, seems wrong. out of context and does not appear in such a dark landscape, and so you try to hide it. If you do not trust your emotions, then you can no longer trust your joy. And if you try to hide your fear, then you automatically hide your joy. Once you begin to inhibit emotions, the practice spreads like a plague, until all emotion must be inhibited. That's the one thing that you fear show its face. Now, the difficulty with the foot, they have a reincarnational setting, originally as I mentioned, but there was no reason why that had to appear in this life, particularly. Mary added, the difficulty with the what? Rab said, foot. They said, with the foot. Mary said, oh, the foot. They said, it did originate in a past life, as mentioned, but it did not have to reassert itself now. It served your purposes, however, and it was also another method of retreat. You did not have to go out into a strange environment, away from the home and the hearth. Now, it predated the hearing difficulty in its strongest form, but the habits were always with you. You always favored one foot more than the other, and you built up muscular reaction. When you began to clear your foot, when you got the new shoes, your hearing gave you more difficulty. You needed more of a crunch to make up for the symptom you had lost, simply because you did not understand the reasons behind the difficulties. And without understanding, you can medically rid yourself of one condition, only to make ready certain that you have another one planned to take over. You were finally driven to some kind of desperation, so you accepted the new shoes. You used the symbol. You could have been quite as comfortable without the new shoe, but the symbol was a good one, and you used it and took advantage of it. But then you became frightened, and that is when the hearing difficulty then bothered you so deeply. You will not need to substitute symptoms in such a fashion as you learn to look into yourself. I've given you many clues this evening, and as you listen to the session, whatever remarks I have made, though they seem minute, take note of them. Mary said, all right. They said, I am going to close our session. However, I want to tell you again that you have progressed. There is no reason why you cannot work things out, and why the relationship between you and your husband should not continue to improve. You are both doing well. Robert's class is good for you. It is good for you both, not only because of the particular group here and the subject matter, but also because it gives you contact with other people under a different context. It gets you out of your environment. It also brings the two of you together in a common experience. Now, I bid you a fond good evening, and you see, it was not so bad after all. Mary said, no, it wasn't. Thank you very much. They said, you simply have some work to do. Mary said, thank you very much, and I'll try to do that work real hard. Ra said, the question will automatically answer itself about your operation. Do you remember that? Mary said, I am taping you. Rob said, Seth said you could make up your own mind about the operation. Mary said, yeah, that I could. Seth said, one small point. You have been punishing yourself quite often in the way in which you approach the medical experience. The idea of an operation, on the one hand, frightens you. On the other hand, you feel it is just punishment for these years of mine that will not work. The same applied to the mouth. In that case, again, the attitude causes your reaction. I am not telling you not to get treated medically when you believe that you need it. I am telling you that often you use medical treatment as a further punishment of the body. Often you use medical treatment as a reassurance. You are not quite certain, yet, that you form your own reality, and you want to make certain, in the meantime, that the medical profession can help you out. Mary said, yeah, I see. I don't know what to tell my doctor when I think he's going to suggest an operation, and I don't know what to tell him. Shall I say I will think about it? They said, I would leave it open, and leave yourself open, and try the experiments that I have suggested. Mary said, because I only have 10 more days till I get the hearing test, and I have a feeling that he'll want this specialist to go in there and work. They said, for now, I will forget the deadline. It will only make you nervous. Mary said, aha. They said, you are not to begin these experiments that I have suggested with the idea that, well, I must hurry up. Mary said, yeah, I just didn't know what to tell the doctor, 'cause he might want a statement of when I would get an operation, and I don't. I haven't made up my mind if I want one or not, yet. They said, I will put it off then, if you are asking my advice. Mary said, yes, thank you. They said, do not make a decision until you are clearer in your own mind. Mary said, because I want to try to heal it without an operation. They said, I think that you can. The delay, in any case, will not hurt you in that particular area, and without changing your attitude, the operation will not help. Do you follow me? Mary said, yes, I do. That's what I thought you meant to before. They said, then I bid you a fond good evening, and my heartiest regards to my friend over there, Rob, who did not have to take any notes this evening. Mary said, thank you very much, Seth. They said, now, wait for a moment. Wait for a moment. We will have a very brief summer hearing song. Mary said, all right. Noted, summary can do with a lovely song.